All right, joining me now is a very special guest here, Jordan Schachtel. He is the publisher of the Dossier website on Substack, and I think a very thoughtful commentator on all things going on with the great decoupling between China and the United States. Jordan, thanks for joining me on the U.S. Report. I wanted to bring you on because you've written a fascinating piece in your Dossier website this week titled "Decoupling from China is Worth the Price." And I want to start with something important you say, which mirrors what I have been thinking too. Namely, that Wall Street cannot dictate policy more broadly, but you say specifically in terms of how the United States deals with the Chinese Communist Party. Explain what you meant by this.
Yeah, so I've been writing a lot, and thanks for having me on. I've been writing a lot about the tariffs imposed by the Trump administration, calling balls and strikes on the issue. But what I really wanted to focus on was how China is such a nefarious force in today's world, and how it is really the responsibility of the US government to get this right and to really take the opportunity to decouple from China, because the state of affairs between our two countries is completely unacceptable. The Chinese government is extremely authoritarian. They continually steal an estimated $500 billion worth of intellectual property, including research and development, super classified weapon systems, our fighter jets, and we have no recourse for it. And Chinese have been abusing the trade relationship with the United States for decades now. So I believe that the time has come to fully decouple.
And, that decoupling, well, the things that have provoked that are things like currency manipulation, dumping of products, making theirs artificially cheap. But as you say, I want to go back to this thing about the theft of data, because you list a long list of things from F-35 fighter jet data and plans to missile guidance technology to chip fabrication technology to nuclear reactor designs to semiconductor processes, even to self-driving car technology, and on and on and on. Now, if this hadn't been stopped, or if there weren't moves underway to stop this, then clearly the end game would be that China would be able to dominate the West and the United States in every single one of these fields. And yet at the moment we're thinking, oh, no, the bonds yields are too high or the share market is too low. But do we need to focus on this bigger picture here?
Right. So I think there's a lot of debate going on around the tactics and the maneuvers that the Trump administration is doing, which is fine. But I think we can all come together and agree on the overall strategy, which is decoupling from China, whether you want to do that rapidly or over the course of many years. And remember, Trump's already in his second term and will become, in the U.S., what they call a lame duck after the midterm election. So he has a very short window to get this done. So I really applaud him because, Wall Street's all about quarterly reports, boosting the stock price. And, the stock market is a significant component of the U.S. economy. But if we were to rely on Wall Street to decouple from China, they would never do it, because there's so much integration in our globalized economy, for better or worse, that it's going to take a strong political leader to get this done. So, I approve and applaud of what he's trying to accomplish here.
But do you think, though, Jordan, that Trump should have been a bit more, I guess, sort of clear about what he was trying to do with these tariffs, which is, not necessarily to start a fight with allies like the European Union or Australia here, which has copped 10% tariffs, but really it is about that thing of getting China and getting Beijing and the CCP to behave according to the rules of the road of the global trading system.
For sure, I agree with you. I think that the quote unquote Liberation Day tariffs were a little aggressive, and President Trump's a pragmatist. He listened to a lot of smart people, both inside and outside the government, and he dialed them back and recalibrated them, I'd say, to his credit. And now we're focused on China, where I think it should be. I don't think there should be massive tariffs on partners that we're going to need to be on our side here, like Vietnam, and other, major manufacturing powerhouses like India. We're going to need, when we need to move these supply chains and fix our logistics situations here, we're going to need to lean on these partners. So I'm happy that they rolled back the tariffs, and, hopefully we get the best of this trade war with China.
Well, yeah, we're going to see how this all plays out, but I want to get your reaction also to the China Daily, which is the Chinese Communist Party's English mouthpiece, which has told the U.S. to stop whining and said that Trump's frequent claims of the U.S. being ripped off are hoodwinking the U.S. public. Now, Jordan, I am here in Australia right now, which has received similar diplomacy, and they've said, oh, we should have a great relationship, even though they've treated Australia in previous years, like garbage and put up huge walls against our products. How false are these claims? I mean, and will they have any traction with the global community that China is trying to say, hey, let's make a deal with us, you and me and China against the United States?
It's so laughably false that just look at the fighter jets and the military equipment. They've stolen our intellectual property at the cost to us of hundreds of billions of dollars. This is how they do business. Their new stealth fighter jet looks exactly like our F-35. It's not some crazy coincidence that happened. So they're playing dirty, and they don't mind lying about it. They have this strain of ideological communism. I'm not accusing them of being a wholly communist party power today. They're much more fascist, I guess, than they're communist, but they're certainly, believers in the ends justifying the means and whatnot. And, I think Australia is in a difficult position because geopolitically, you're very close to China. Physically, you don't have the same barrier we have. And that's why it's so important that the United States leads, both the Anglosphere, specifically in the West, in confronting China.
And finally, I want to ask where you think this goes next, Jordan, because you've been studying this issue for some time. There have been reports suggesting that the Trump administration could delist, that is, take them off, Chinese firms from American stock exchanges. This, though, wouldn't be the first time, because Joe Biden did do some delisting also in 2021. Given that history, do you think this would be a good move for the Trump administration as they ratchet this up?
Well, you certainly need to make available all of the instruments in your arsenal for sure when you're conducting a high-level trade war against China, and nothing can be off the table. We do have to be careful, however, that we have to make sure that China remains. China is the authoritarian, censorship-heavy surveillance state. We are the free country, so we need to stick to our principles while achieving victory in this trade war. But I think the president is right to say that nothing's off the table here. Even the precious U.S. and Western dollars into Alibaba, et cetera, could potentially be off the table.
Fair enough. Jordan Schachtel, thank you so much. Check out your stuff on the Dossier Substack site. It's excellent.